Most people don't give up on their manifestation because it didn't work. They give up on it because something happened, and they let that moment redefine who they are. That shift happens faster than most people realize, and once identity shifts, manifestation follows. Every manifestation succeeds or fails at the level of identity. Not desire, not belief, but identity, because identity determines what feels natural, what feels possible, and what you unconsciously return to under pressure. This is why most people don't lose manifestations. They lose the state. And when the state collapses, identity collapses with it. Identity collapse happens when a temporary experience overrides your internal position. Something happens, a delay, a reaction from someone else, an unexpected outcome, and suddenly you're no longer the version of yourself who assumed it was done. You're back to managing, fixing, hoping, doubting. The shift is subtle, but it's decisive. Identity stabilization is the opposite. It's when your internal position remains intact, even when external conditions fluctuate. You don't need reassurance. You don't reevaluate yourself every time something changes. You don't emotionally renegotiate the assumption. You stay. This is where many people misunderstand the manifesting state. They think it's a feeling they have to maintain. But the manifesting state is not emotional intensity. It's an identity position the nervous system recognizes as normal. Most people mistake strong emotion for stability. They think feeling excited, motivated, or certain means the state is real. But strong emotion is unstable by nature. It spikes, it crashes, it demands feedback. Stability feels quieter. It feels almost ordinary. It feels like nothing needs to be done. That's why identity stabilization often feels boring. And boredom is not a problem. Boredom is a signal that the nervous system has accepted the state as baseline. Wayne Dyer touched on this when he said that when something becomes who you are, you no longer think about it. You express it. Identity collapse usually follows one predictable pattern. You interpret an event as evidence. Evidence that it's not working. Evidence that you were wrong. Evidence that you need to adjust. And the moment appearances become proof, identity shifts. And this is why Neville Goddard emphasized ignoring appearances. Not because appearances aren't real, but because they don't define the end. Appearances describe motion, not outcome. Identity stabilization means appearances lose authority. They become information, not instruction. You can notice them without becoming them. You can respond without redefining yourself. This is the difference between reacting from a state and reacting out of a state. Whenever identity is stabilized, reactions pass through the mind quickly. They don't linger. They don't spiral. They don't rewrite your internal story. You return to baseline naturally. And baseline is everything, because reality reflects baseline behavior, not peak moments. This is why people who almost manifest feel like they're always restarting. They touch the manifesting state, then abandon it at the first sign of uncertainty. But stabilization means you don't restart, you continue. Even when nothing seems to be happening, even when things look the same, even when old patterns try to reassert themselves. Notice, identity doesn't need defending, it needs consistency. The more consistently you remain in a settled assumption, the less effort it takes to maintain. Eventually, it becomes self-sustaining. And once identity stabilizes, manifestation stops feeling fragile because it doesn't depend on mood, it doesn't depend on confidence, it doesn't depend on constant awareness. It depends on who you're being when nothing is prompting you. That's when desires stop feeling aspirational and start feeling inevitable. Subscribe and enter your manifesting state.